Will the circle be unbroken by
Behold, my children, I have not left you behind, though I have been absent for a while. For I have risen again to bring you the joyous word of the gaming industry. Now, tonight's scripture is a very sacred word from our holy prophet, Ken Levine. It is the Holy Trinity of Bioshock Infinite. So seeing that my last video was about a game that most people like, but I hate it, I think it's only fair that this time I'll be talking about a game that I love, but plenty of people seem to hate, despite or perhaps precisely because of its popularity. Now I will gladly agree that the game probably doesn't deserve most of the hype it got and has plenty of faults. Its main twist, while effective, is nothing mind-blowing, and for some it was quite easy to predict. Also, many aspects of the story and the world are criminally underdeveloped, and the gameplay does little to nothing to innovate from the previous Bioshock games. If anything, it takes a few steps backwards. But despite this, the game does a lot of things right, and there are three things I think that the entire gaming industry could learn from. First of all, there is obviously the character of Elizabeth. I've talked about this in length previously, but Elizabeth is simply put a model example of a properly done, strong female character. She has a strong, clearly defined personality and appearance. She is capable of taking care of herself, but isn't also afraid to show fear and weakness when it's needed. Despite not being a playable character in the main game, Elizabeth is definitely the second main character of Bioshock Infinite. She goes through quite a lot of growth during the story, and interestingly enough, her journey mirrors that of Booker. At the beginning of the game, it is Booker who has all the power and information, while Elizabeth has none, a situation which is completely turned on its head by the end of the game. Speaking of Elizabeth, it is also important to note how the game handles essentially being an escort mission, an idea which sounds simply catastrophic to the average gamer. Escort missions are usually the cancer of a game, where the escorted characters have to be handled like overgrown babies, running recklessly around and slipping over their own shit. However, Elizabeth actually helps the player. She can throw you money, health or ammo, as well as open dimensional portals and pick locks. There is no need to try and wrangle her, since as a grown woman, she's perfectly capable of finding her own cover. This makes the player actually want to protect her, and also strengthens the bond between her and the player. And finally, there is the issue with the main character, Booker, and the violence of the game. Now, some websites accuse the game for ludonarrative dissonance, meaning a conflict between the gameplay and the story. This is simply put ridiculous, because the game and its story is very much aware of its violence. Many games like to proclaim their protagonists as heroes, despite the fact that they are mowing down hundreds of living, breathing people during the length of the game. Enemies or not, some of them are just doing their work, and most of them probably have a family, so it's a bit odd when someone like Nathan Drake has no problems with gunning down hundreds of people for the sake of a treasure. He's never even considering if it's all worth it, and shows no remorse or psychological damages for what he has done. Meanwhile, Booker's persona is very much rooted in violence. He's an ex-soldier who's hunted by his past actions, and despite that, slips right back into violence at the very first opportunity, like a drug addict. he shows no remorse because he's already sunken too deep into blood. That's the only way he can have any power over his life anymore. Despite this, the game still takes the opportunity to show the consequences of Booker's actions. Despite what happens, despite all the best intentions, violence just seems to breed more violence. And the only right choice is to never to start it in the first place. And as Booker's innocence, Elizabeth gets to say just how horrible the things they've had to do really are.
Do you think it's possible to redeem the kind of things that we've done?
Redeem? I don't see much use in that.
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
Love it or hate it, there are plenty of things in Bioshock Infinite's design that many games could learn from. Perhaps that's the reason why, despite its imperfections, that it left such a strong, mind-fucking impression in my mind.